Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Denje, for those of you who do not know me. And if you're coming back, welcome. I really appreciate the love, guys, the support, the consistency. The returning subscribers are one of the reasons why I just keep on pushing and keep on uploading videos, because I know that it's not just me uploading videos, but it means something to someone, you know. So I know I've been away for quite some time. A lot of things have been occupying me, from my license to just spending time with family. You know, I'm not always at home, so I just need to be there when I am there for my siblings. Like, I also need to be present emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. So that will mean less time on the screen. Also just data. Guys, we don't have Wi-Fi at home or anything of that sort, so it takes me to like upload videos when I'm at home. And sometimes at some point I did have data, but I was troubled by time. I didn't have time to actually shoot and edit a video. I did shoot a video at some point, but I think the issue was editing and time to edit and all of that. So those were one of the issues. But yeah, so today's video, I like to talk about loneliness. It's something that I've actually wanted to talk about for a very long time. I wanted this video to be in 2022, but yeah, anywho's, I want to talk about it now before I go any further. It's something that has been a predominating feeling for the past 2 years at varsity, actually. And it's something that people don't really talk about, like the loneliness you feel when you're at race. Where you feel loneliness, I feel like the first place is academics. Yeah, unless maybe your parents were in the same university, did the same course, they'll understand how hectic, how lonely, how lonely it actually gets during the course, you know, especially if your degree is very long. You do feel the emotions of loneliness. And so, because you might have family members who don't really relate to your situation, or when you say things are really hectic and they don't understand what you mean by that, because they haven't really like experienced what you've gone through, or they haven't been in your shoes doing the same degree and at the same institution, for instance. They find it very hard to relate to you. I think for me, I did myself a very big flaw, because in high school I used to like complain to my parents, oh my goodness, the people are so bad. Maybe I didn't understand one question, you know, and I come back with like a 90 or an 80, and my parents will be like, ah, Denji. So I feel like they had that thought, or like they got used to it, that even when I complain about schoolwork, even if I complain that this is hectic, they just are under the assumption that she will make it right, or she will sort it out. I feel like you have this fear of like the futures in your hands, and it's just so scary, because especially if you're self-funded, like you just feel like, dude, I can't afford to mess up. So in the process, you just feel lonely. You just feel I don't know, man, like trapped. You feel like you're the only one in this whole thing. And yes, they might like take some time, how are you doing and everything, but honestly, to be honest, most of the time you're just always on the urge. You're just trying to push through lectures, you're trying to push through tests and exams and everything, you know. So it does get to you at that point. The second place where you do feel loneliness is relationships. I think when I was growing up, I have had feelings of loneliness. Loneliness is not like a new emotion to me, because my mom was very like protective over me. She didn't want me to get out of the house, so I would spend most of my time in the house. I think that's where actually most talents came from, like drawing, painting, cooking, all of that. It was just attempts to unbore myself, you know, because I just try to make my life interesting wherever I am, whatever situation I'm faced with. So I've had feelings of loneliness in childhood, but the feelings of loneliness came from just the fact that I didn't have friends around my neighborhood. When I came to university, it was quite the contrary. You know, I think as I grew up, I started to realize who I am, my identity in Christ, and what I like and what I don't like, you know. So at varsity, there's just a lot of people, but then you still feel lonely. And why is that? Because I think there are so many people, you know, there are actually so many people at varsity, but to find your people, to find your kind of people is hard. And I think that's why even up until now, I've had met some amazing people at varsity, don't get me wrong, but like the people who relate to me, who understand me, most of them come from high school. Because yeah, man, it's just hard to find your circle of friends. First thing that a person can do because they're feeling lonely is get into the wrong relationship. Yes, we're at an age where people are getting married and people are having serious relationships. I can't relate. But we're at that age where you do have emotions or feelings of wanting to be with a significant other, but then you shouldn't really start off a relationship because you are feeling lonely, because if that's the only basis, you'll jump into the following relationship, whether it be healthy or toxic, just to numb the emotions of loneliness. Do you get me? And I've found, I don't know, man, but sometimes I think when I look at varsity people in relationships, right, I just find myself just doubting, vitamin in general. Sorry to say this, but I just find myself doubting, because I feel like I've checked some relationships around me with the people that I interact with, and I realize that most of the time people are just using each other. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's just me thinking deeply or just my perception in life that is flawed, and I mean, I'm entitled to my own opinion, but I think from what I've seen is that it's like, if there's a hectic taste coming up, you just want someone to cuddle with. If there is like, you had a bad day, you just want, someone to be with and everything. But besides that, I feel like people have different definitions of loneliness. Do you get me? I think for me personally, I just want a companion. Do you understand? I just want a friend. So I think for me, my need to have a friend is actually like, I want to find a friend in a boyfriend. Do you understand what I mean? I'm not big on affection. I'm pursuing purity. So to be honest with you, most of the things that people do when they're dating or perceives relationships, dating, all of that is completely different from how I perceive it. And my version of it as well is completely different. So I think at some point I thought I wanted a boyfriend, but I'm starting to realize that I actually don't want one, and maybe because of the people around me. Like, you just meet someone at varsity, and after 2 weeks of getting to know you, it's like they're just so hungry for touch, so hungry for affection and all of that. And for someone like me, I'm really not a fan. I think not only just trying to protect my purity in general, but I just don't want someone who's so fixed in physicality. Do you get what I mean? So those are some of the issues. And I find myself preferring to remain single and preferring to be by myself than to be with someone who doesn't understand that I just want a companion. I just want someone to talk to. I just want someone to go to church with, someone to like, sometimes even like cook with, someone to like joke around with, someone to go to the mall with, someone to read the Bible with, do Bible study. I mean, those simple basic things, nothing really major. So you find someone who has a different definition of loneliness. Maybe they think that loneliness can be cured by having someone to cuddle with, and so for me it will clash with my definition of how I should deal with loneliness. Do you get what I mean? So you find someone also who doesn't really care about purity and you value purity, so you can see that most of those things clash, and hence why I find myself where I am right now, where really I am not really enthusiastic about relationships. It's like I'm at a place in my life where I'm just like, okay, you know what, if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, really. And I've really found some people who actually do tell me that they're interested in me, but I am just not there. Like, and I think it's only later on that I realized that companionship doesn't come by force. Like, association is not by force. Like, I've found people who are availing themselves like 24/7. They're availing themselves, and they could do anything, absolutely anything for me, but you just don't relate, you just don't connect to the other person. And then you realize that companionship, connection, understanding, being able to really get the person is a blessing on its own, and it's not something that anyone can understand you, anyone can relate to you, anyone can just see things from your point of view. Do you understand what I mean? I don't know if I'm making sense, but anywho's like, there are people who have just really availed themselves, like, danger, I'm here, girl, danger, I can move mountains for you, but it's not what you want. They're not what you want, because they don't have the same value system as you. For instance, like people who this person seems to love you more than they love God. That's just like a red flag, because I mean, like, I need you to also rebuke me sometimes when I'm doing something wrong. I need you to lead me to the Lord sometimes. Okay, I don't want to preach about my typical guy, but you get what I mean. Like, the third area where you might find yourself lonely is in friendship. Yes, I think as a kid, as I said, you could say it was a matter of there were no people, but now there are people, but I can't relate to a lot of people. Not everyone is a Christian, not everyone is a Christian by your definition, because I've met people who say they love God, they know God, and all of that, but I'm just like, girl, are we reading the same Bible? Like, girl, are we praying to the same God? Girl, is your Jesus the one I'm serving? There are people who believe that, I don't know, Jesus is okay with sin. Jesus is okay if you serve other gods and you mix things. Is it the same Jesus who is all loving and doesn't care about what you do? He just loves you the way you are, and you can live anyhow, and you can just do anything in this Christian journey, and God is gonna be full of grace. So I've met people who like claim to also be Christians, but yeah, it's not in line with the revelation that I got from God. It's not in line with how I view Christianity in general. I mean, I need to be around people who edify me, people who I feel challenged in my faith, in my relationship with God. So, yeah, I've met people who really, I don't know, man, they have a different version of Christianity than I do. So, you find yourself very lonely. And times where a lot of people also like groove and smoke weed. I mean, it's not something that I prefer, but not only based on it being a hazard to your health and everything, but just the lifestyle in general is not something that I prefer. But I found people who don't prefer that, and they still stick around and do that because they feel lonely. The thing with companionship is that I need to relate to you to be a companion to you. This is something that I'm trying to bring across. I need to relate to you. I need to understand you. And sometimes for me to be able to relate to you, I need to do the things that you do. So you find people who like go to groove or smoke or drink, because most people on a Friday night are at groove. They're not at home, they're not watching Netflix like me, or they're not cooking or whatever. It's not me judging, don't get me wrong, but I'm just trying to see or decipher between the differences. Do you get me? So for me to be able to be a close friend to that person, I'll need to start drinking, or I'll need to start smoking, or I'll need to start having a lot of boyfriends, or I'll need to start being promiscuous if the person is talking about what they did last night, whatever the case might be. I mean, it's a really tough thing to actually be on a crossroad. Like, what do I do now when I'm lonely, when I have no friends, when it seems like everyone is doing this and I'm the only one who's doing that? And what happens when you're the only one who seems in this generation to hate cursing, and you don't want to seem like Miss Goody Two Shoes? You don't want people to look at you like, oh my goodness, then your ex, like, she's perfect. But honestly, it's just that you have dedicated your life and you've laid down your life to God at an early age, and you're like, you know what, even when like 99 people are going that way, I choose to go this way. And you find yourself walking that road alone, not alone, but alone in quotations, and it seems like you're the only one following or pursuing that path. What do you do then when the feelings of loneliness engulf you? Because you know what, you can feel lonely, but there's certain emotions that are so intense. There's this loneliness that is out of this world that literally is like it's engulfing. I felt the most when my mom passed away. Yeah, that emotion was intense when it comes to loneliness, because you just feel so alone. But I think my relationship with God saved me at that point. And I'm talking about those people who chose to still be true to themselves. Like, you don't want to drink, you don't want to smoke, you don't want to have sex before marriage, but you feel lonely. And I think even for me, I remember one conversation that I had with God that was really, really honest. I said everything that I was in my heart to God, and I'm like, Lord, you know what? I'm being tempted. I'm not tempted because of the sin itself, like sexual sin, because I've closed all the doors regarding that. I don't watch things that are filled with sexual content. If it's a movie, for instance, and then there's a sex scene, I quickly fast forward. If it's too much, I just stop altogether. I just stop watching it altogether. Like, I've really, even the friends around me, they are pursuing purity. If they're not pursuing purity, they don't have sexual conversations with me. I feel like you should respect me enough to do that, So I've really closed doors in that regard. But I was like feeling tempted, and the temptation was not coming from feeling tempted to have sex, but it was more of, I want someone, and then I feel like to get a boyfriend, for instance, I have to have sex or something, and it's me just having an honest conversation with God. I remember I'm like, Lord, I'm so afraid for my sexual purity. I'm not tempted because of this, but the loneliness is just a lot. Please help me with this, because I feel like oftentimes people don't, and I think that's what it means to have God's heart. Like, you really don't want to sin, but what about this loneliness, Lord? Help me to deal with it. So I think sometimes prevention is better than cure, because the devil can capitalize on your emotions, whether it be to go wayward, to start doing the things that you never wanted to do, to start having sex, or whatever the case might be. It can all start off as loneliness. It's a doorway that the devil can use, so I had that conversation with God, and I remember sometimes when I would just write, and it was for a long time. It's not like once off. I'll just write long diary entries to God, like, Lord, please help me, please help me. I want to still live pure. I want to do this, I want to do that, because I feel like we all come off together as like we're perfect. No, we're not perfect, but God helps us through everything. And I feel like that's the difference. Hey, I feel like you shouldn't feel lonely, or you shouldn't feel tempted and just not do anything and give into the temptation, but fight, because life is a fight, life is a battle. And whether it be also just smoking, drinking, whatever it is that you don't want to do when you're at varsity, but you find yourself being so tempted to do it, but you yourself don't want to do it, because one of the fruits of the Spirit is what? Self-control, right? You have to fight against that, and you have to pray to God and ask God to help you with that. So I remember praying to God about it, and I'm like, Lord, please help me to deal with those feelings of loneliness. And God literally at some point even said something like, start investing in your cooking. So this year I started cooking. I started searching out recipes. The Bible says that an idle mind is the devil's playground. So I think those times when I'm not busy, I've been investing in cooking, because oftentimes I feel like you expected an answer like read the Bible or pray to me. No, like sometimes God can just be practical, like start going to the gym, baby, or join a committee, join the choir, do a sport. I don't know, whatever it is, right? But there are times when I do feel lonely and I'm about to sleep, where I just write a journal to the Lord again, and I just talk to him. And then the following morning when I wake up, it's like that episode never happened. It's like I have loneliness episodes. I don't know if it makes sense. Like those episodes when I'm feeling so lonely. I don't know if it's just natural sometimes, or if it's because of my grieving period. But yeah, and also having like my friends from high school that I've had ever since then. I literally like maybe talk to my other friend, who's also my accountability partner in terms of purity, where I like talk to him about things, if I'm feeling okay, if I'm still feeling okay, or if I feel like my purity had been compromised in any way, you know what I mean? Because like I think a lot of people think purity is penetration, and it's not. Like purity is vast. Purity comes from the heart, your thoughts, even those feelings of temptations, like really having to say to someone else and they helping you, praying with you, and all of that, it really goes a long way. So yeah, another thing that really helped me as well is church. Yes, I think in as much as I'm not really like so connected to the people at church, I have my cell leader obviously, but I do go to church. I think for me more than anything, it's just about God. So I don't really have like a lot of people that I know at church. Maybe the ones I know are from my cell group. But I think every single time when I go to church, right, I'm reminded that there are other people pursuing God. I'm reminded that, okay, not everyone is lukewarm. I'm reminded that then you should keep on doing what you're doing. Don't feel like it's a waste of time. Don't feel like all the young people are living God in the sense of some people claim to have God, but they're not living a life that glorifies God. So I'm reminded that there are people glorifying God through their lives. And even when the pastor preaches, I feel like he preaches to me and he speaks the word with so much boldness, undiluted. And that helps me to keep pursuing God. So this is a message to anyone who feels lonely, not to give in to the loneliness and to hand the loneliness over to God. And how did I do that? I talked about it to my purity partners. I talked about it to God. I journaled it down. God gave me practical steps like cooking, gymming, And any other thing that God might reveal to me this year, things like starting my YouTube channel, And I'm not saying that I had really genuinely started the YouTube channel because of loneliness, but it really helped a long way in terms of like just having people to connect with, talk to. And sometimes you just realize that maybe you don't really want that. Like, I don't really want a boyfriend, I just wanted a companion. So I really hope that God helps you in your journey. And one thing that I can always say is we are different people, but the same remedy is Jesus. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. It was very short, long. I don't know. I feel like it was short, but yeah, I could say a whole lot more, guys. But I bye for now. Bye for now. I'll definitely upload very soon. Love you. Bye.